You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to do our review for the season finale of Arrow, as well as touch upon the season a little bit. But let's get into the season's finale first. Very, very solid ending for Arrow after what was an excellent season. And this villain, I think, has to be, in my opinion, the best villain they've had since Deathstroke, who obviously made a return for the last episode. Adrian Chase was always ahead of Oliver and Team Arrow, all the way up until the end. And he broke Oliver down earlier in the season. Adrian Chase is just a great villain. And, you know, this episode, he really went all out to do whatever it took to try and get Oliver to kill him. And even if Oliver did, it basically was a no-win situation for Oliver. With worrying about his son, his team being trapped on the island. And then all the turning, he had what seemed to be Captain Boomerang on his side, and Captain Boomerang was obviously in cahoots with Prometheus. It made it seem like for a second Slade Wilson was doing that, but they set it up that way. And I kind of figured that out right away because there was too many sincere moments between Oliver and Slade before that happened, where Slade punches him and leads him to Siren. I was going to say Black Canary, but that's Siren. So yeah, and just the way things have built up this season to that climax really gives you a sense of just how, first of all, intelligent Adrian Chase is, how he must have been setting this up for so long, and all the steps he took. And it was good that they made it so that Talia was not the primary villain, because for a while there were a couple of episodes where it almost made it seem like Talia would be the major villain and that Prometheus was just her pawn. I'm glad they didn't do that. That would have ruined it, because I really think Adrian Chase really was that good of a villain that it would have just taken away from that if they had made it so that Talia was the one orchestrating everything because she wanted to get revenge for her father's death. The fighting, the action was just incredible. And that's one of the reasons why I think this season was just as good, if not even slightly better than season 2. Because season 2, you had the city under siege basically by Deathstroke. And a lot of the action, while there was great fighting in that as well, a lot of the primary action was like the Michael Bay type stuff, the explosions, the fires going on and all that stuff. This one, there wasn't any of that throughout the season. There was some excellent fighting scenes, some excellent action sequences, and the season finale is no exception. They really, the fight scene between Talia and her sister, name escapes me at the moment. I know it starts with an N. I think what it is, I'm afraid to pronounce it wrong because I'm always pronouncing names wrong. But I think it was Nisa. That fight sequence was really good. The group fighting between Team Arrow and I'm going to say Team Prometheus was really cool. It was good to see Siren versus the new Black Canary. And I like how Quentin gave her, kind of passed the torch to her and said, when Mad Dog was like, so go ahead and sing Canary. And then Quentin was like, no, that's Black Canary. That was great. That was really awesome. That kind of solidified, the character at this point as the new Black Canary. Even though I believe in the comics, that's who it is. I know in the Injustice game, it's Dinah. That's the Black Canary. So, that, I guess they're trying to get it right. But, so that was really cool to see her pass torch. And then it was even better to see Quentin finally come to his senses, even though I can imagine how hard it is, for him to have seen, the Laurel from Earth 2 or from the multiverse, having to see her, and it must have took time for it to sink in that, look, that's not your daughter. That's just someone that looks like her, but it's not her. And he finally stepped up and knocked her out. So a lot of good moments. Quinn's always been one of my favorite characters. He kind of reminds me of Joe West. He tends to really drive some of the emotional moments in Arrow because of the fact that he's been through so much. He's lost both his daughters, even though Sarah's back now. But he's lost both his daughters and he's just been through a lot. They come back, they die again. I mean, anybody else probably would have committed suicide by now, or just drink themselves into a stupor, and the fact that he nearly did in terms of the alcohol, but the fact that he could come back and then also be an inspiration for Renee, says a lot about the character. Quinn's always been one of my favorite characters on the show, because of that, because of the fact that he's had so many moments where he could have just fallen into the darkness and never come out of it. And he's always found a way out. He's always had help. Thea's played a major role. And I also like the fact that Thea has developed into a character that she's not just part of Team Arrow anymore. She's kind of come into her own, and her relationship with Ollie's gotten so much better when you look back at the first 2 or 3 seasons, and they've gotten a lot closer. Obviously they've had to with the death of their mother. And then of course, Malcolm Merlyn being her father has been a struggle for her, but now we see that she's more or less, even though she hates him, she knows that a lot of what he does for her, even though he's done some bad things to her, but he has put himself in harm's way, literally, especially in this episode, to save her. So, and Thea as a character she's grown a lot. She's gotten a lot better. I used to think she was very annoying, very condescending, but her character has really come into her own, and I like the relationship between her and Ollie now as compared to a couple of years back. So I'm sorry, back into the episode. It's just, it's such a good season, and then you just see how far these characters have come. So it's hard not to acknowledge that, when you start breaking down character by character. I also thought it was very fitting that the show concluded on the island, and we also, I think probably at this point, got the conclusion of the flashbacks, because the flashbacks ended where season 1, episode 1 began, which was Ollie wearing the outfit with the beard, lighting the torch, and making his way home. And that phone call between him and his mother was very, very strong, very powerful. It was nice to see her back on the show for a brief cameo. Yeah, that was just, the whole episode it's almost like everything came full circle. And now it's going to be interesting to see how things turn out next year. I don't want to see any flashbacks anymore. I hope they don't do them. I thought this year's flashbacks were pretty good. There were some moments that they were kind of dry, but I thought overall the flashbacks this year were pretty good, and I don't think they need to do flashbacks anymore. There is always the possible chance that they might still do them, and they might flash back certain moments from the last 5 years that we never saw on screen. On one hand, that would be interesting, but on the other hand, I don't think the flashbacks need to be done anymore. There were some moments in the show where the flashbacks in this episode kind of took me out of the element a little bit, because I was so involved and so invested in watching the show and what would happen next that when they went to a flashback, I was like, oh. And it's not that the flashbacks were bad. I like the fact that they led up to full circle into episode 1, season 1. But when I'm so into this episode and I want to see so badly what happens, that it just, the few moments that they did pop up, it kind of just took me out of it. But the overall value of the flashbacks did not detract from the episode. It added to the episode. It added to the element of Oliver's journey. And that's the wonderful thing about this episode too, is that you see, even though the ending was tragic in a sense, because we don't know what's happened to Team Arrow, we have to wait till next year. The fact that now you see Oliver come full circle, he, in some sick way, Adrian has actually helped develop Oliver further, because earlier in the season, Oliver admitted that he liked killing. He enjoyed doing it. And I think that's something he's never actually admitted to even himself. And I think admitting that is something that helps you move past that, get past it. And he admitted to Felicity, the woman he loves. So that in some crazy ways might have actually helped Oliver not kill Adrian. That and the fact that Adrian wanted it so bad. And Oliver just didn't want to satisfy him anymore. But so Adrian was a very, very pivotal villain in many ways, because on one hand, yes, he terrified Oliver, he tortured him, he did some horrible things to him, he always put people that Oliver loved in jeopardy. But in some crazy way, he also helped Oliver move to another level in his life where he can do what he does without having to harm people, and he doesn't have to live with those demons anymore. He doesn't have to live with the idea of killing. Now, we also have to consider that depending on what happens to everybody on the island will also affect Oliver. Look, I don't see them completely destroying all these characters in one fell swoop. I just don't see it. However, I do see some casualties coming out of it. The question is who? Who survives? Who had an opportunity to, I don't know, get under a tree trunk and avoid some of the explosion or the debris? Who was left out in the open and got hit with debris or whatever? Or who was literally standing on top of a bomb, you know? And just curious though, how the hell, you know, this two mysteries now on Arrow. A, how does Mr. Terrific get his hair? How does he get his hair done up, you know, braided in such a short period of time? That's number one. Number two, how in God's name did Adrian Chase set up a whole island full of bombs? That would take forever. You know what I mean? When you consider the networking to the primary trigger, and then literally that whole thing was flashing red. There had to be hundreds of bombs on that island. I mean, all right, yeah, maybe he had help, but that still would take forever. So, I don't know. But anyway, overall, look, Arrow season 5 was fantastic. They did a fantastic job. It's, to me, I think it's slightly better than season 2. Only because Adrian Chase to me was the kind of villain that, I think Arrow needed, number one. Number two, he just was brutal. And the actor who played him, I mean, God, give this guy an Emmy. He was just freaking fantastic. I almost regretted the fact that he shot himself, because it's like, oh my God, this guy's such a great villain. But, you know, it was great to see Deathstroke back, and even Captain Boomerang for a brief moment. Excuse me. And, oh, pardon me. I haven't got much sleep lately. But no, overall, I think it was a great season. It was great to see the cameos. Oliver's mother, Deathstroke, Captain Boomerang came back. You know, and it was crazy to see that ending, such a cliffhanger. I will say one thing, and I said this in my prior, in my Flash video. I do hope that a villain comes along that doesn't need a big reveal. And I hope the next villain for Arrow is not an Arrow, you know, another Archer. You know, I really do think that they need to have a villain that's just completely different from anything. Cause, you know, Talia's an Archer, Nisa's an Archer, Prometheus is an Archer, Malcolm's an Archer, everybody's an Archer. I want to see a lot less Archers on Arrow. But outside of that, that's my only pet peeve. Other than that, man, this season was just bomb fantastic. And I can't wait till it drops on Netflix, and I'm just going to watch it again. It was just that good. I definitely want to see it now, like back to back to back to back. This better effect without having to wait 3 weeks for the next episode or something like that. So, but anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Overall, the season was great. The finale was fantastic. Everything has come full circle. I'm very interested to see where they're going to take Arrow starting next year. And again, CW is doing DC justice, man. No pun intended there. They're just doing a great job with these shows and these characters, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. You can follow E.T.N on Facebook, Twitch, or Twitter, or join the Nation Facebook page. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on your way out.